he spent like 6 hours with me going through his offense, going through clips. I'm writing down notes, and the next year our offense got 15 times better because I just tried to mimic what he was doing.
Hey coaches, did you know we're now offering shows for all sports? That's right, whether it's basketball, volleyball, softball, baseball, football, soccer, you name it, we've got you covered. If you're looking for a way to showcase your program, promote your players, and highlight the amazing things happening with your team, our coaches shows are the perfect solution. Plus, our business model lets you or your booster club raise money while building excitement and support for your program. Don't miss the opportunity to take your team's story to the next level. Find out how you can get your very own coaches show. Reach out to Chris at 713-269-4620 today. That's 713-269-4620 because every team deserves the spotlight. Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Daly, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Coach Tony Beneddetto to the show. Tony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Cool. So what I like to do is I like to go back first and start with where you grew up, because your name doesn't sound like a typical Texas name. So talk about where you grew up and where you discovered football.
Sure. Well, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, northwest suburb called Crystal Lake. You know, the last name is Italian. Both of my parents, I guess both my grandparents on both sides, my dad and my mom's side, immigrated from Italy in the 20s. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of infused Italian family in the Chicagoland area. And grew up there. My dad was my high school football coach, and I grew up with two brothers. My older brother Nick, he's actually the defensive coordinator at Northern Illinois. My younger brother Vince, he's a head football coach in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And my sisters are both teachers down here in Texas. So and my mother was an elementary school teacher. So everybody's in education. Everybody was involved in sports, and I grew up being a ball boy at the football games of where I grew up at Crystal Lake South High School. So, you know, I feel like, you know, people say how many years of experience you have as a coach. I said, well, my whole life pretty much, because I lived with the coach. And we'd be in the backyard going through. We ran the wing tee, so my dad would be taking me through the steps at quarterback in the wing tee offense in like third grade. So, nice. Yeah, so it kind of started there.
A lot of people don't realize the power or the special relationship of a coach with a son who's playing, how much extra education that son gets.
Yes, and I was a quarterback, and he's the head coach. So when it's your dad and you're a teenager, sometimes you butt heads with your dad. You know, you may talk back and get in trouble, or you may roll your eyes and then get in trouble. But when you're coach, you never do that to your coach. So when the lines get blurred a little bit, you know, we had our ups and downs playing for each other. But, you know, I always remember a story. It was like fourth down. He called the play, and he didn't really say good job to me too much during the season. And we picked up first down. I looked to the sideline. He gave me a big thumbs up. That's the moment I always remember, in our relationship.
Nice. And how did you do as far as your high school teams?
Our high school teams were very successful. It was kind of a growing community. My junior year, the team made it to the semifinals, and we lost in the state semifinals. I actually tore my ACL that year, which I think has helped me as a better coach. I played 2 games, lost the season, and really just football was my whole identity. So when I was a junior in high school, it was taken away. I'd find a space to cry before games because I wanted to be out there playing. It was fun to watch my friends, but painful to go through it. So now every year as a coach, that inevitably happens to someone on one of my players, and I can really resonate with them. And I always write them a letter and sit them down and understand what it goes through to be injured and be disconnected from the team. That happened my junior year. Then my senior year, I got to come back and play, and we made it to the 3rd round of the playoffs in Illinois and got beat by one of the better schools up in the area called Cary Grove High School. So, yeah, that was kind of my high school career.
Did you play any after that?
Yeah, I didn't. People would say, "Where are you going to college?" I don't know, wherever I could play football. So I played. I signed a scholarship and went to Bemidji State University, as a Division II school in Minnesota. I made the travel squad as a freshman. I was like, I was naive. Like, I could play, Division I. Let me try to go to junior college. So I transferred to a junior college in Chicago, and then ended up going from there to the University of Sioux Falls, where my older brother was playing at the time, and it was a NAIA school in South Dakota. So we went 8 hours from Chicago to South Dakota, played there, and we were like 56-4 in my 3 years playing there, won 2 national championships. Wow. Actually, my head coach was Kalen DeBoer, who was probably like late 20s when he was the head coach of the little old University of Sioux Falls and NAIA school. Now he's the head coach of the University of Washington. So it's actually the same OC, the same DC, and the same head coach from my college are, a Power 5 program now.
That's cool. And then when did you know you were going to be a coach?
Oh, I tried to fight it, I guess, a little bit because everybody, my dad did it and my brothers were doing it. So I wanted to be a physical therapist, whatever. And then I went and worked as an after-school program in college and helped like 4th and 5th graders with homework and, played with them like wiffle ball and football and kind of really felt I was like excited to go to work every day when I was doing that part-time. So I kind of woke up, I had an epiphany, like, all right, I prayed into it, and I was like, I need to change my major. So I changed to be a biology teacher and secondary ed major, and knew that I wanted to coach and be around a team for my whole life.
Nice. And, the saying for people who have moved to Texas is, I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. Talk about how you got here and the stops you had along the way. Yeah,
it's a good question. My wife, we met in college. She ran track at the University of Sioux Falls, and then she had family living in Abilene, and my family was in Chicago. So we were like, well, I would like to get to Dallas area and try to coach and teach down there somewhere warmer. And I applied for this program called Teach for America. It's a AmeriCorps program that places new young graduates in urban settings. I got accepted, and they kind of place you in a school, so you really don't have a choice. So I got placed at Dallas Spruce High School in Pleasant Grove area of Dallas and DISD, and tried to like get in contact with the football coach. The principal's like, oh, they don't need any coaches, you're good. So I'm teaching like 3 weeks into school, and the head coach, Carl Richardson Jr., I'll never forget, he comes in and he goes, hey, I heard you played in college. You want to coach? I'm like, yeah, I want to coach. He goes, I've been trying. So he made me come out and volunteer for a year. And then one of the JV offensive coordinator got in trouble for like bootlegging DVDs in the neighborhood. So he got fired. So then I got to like call the JV plays in the game at the end of the year, and we won and scored some points. And then I got, just started working my way up there at the school. I coached football and basketball there. The program that I was in, that Teach for America, you were supposed to stay for 2 years, but I really fell in love with the community and the kids and the school, and I stayed for 7 years. And, Coach Richardson, he played at Miami, played for Spruce High School, played in the NFL, and it was really important to him in that community, so I stuck with him, and he helped me move up. He made me an assistant head coach. He made me an offensive coordinator. And the school was completely shut down by the state, I think in 2007. And so we were trying to like rebuild the school, even though the community had thought it was kind of tarnished based on when the state stepped in to shut it down. And for those last 2 years there, we won 9 games 2 years in a row. There was one year we beat Kimball High School in the fourth quarter of a game that was super close. And the year before we had lost 60-7. So to know that we were able to like close that gap that fast and those kids won that game, it was one of the most meaningful games I've ever coached in. Even though, from the outside of Dallas, no one really, looked at it or appreciated it. That was some of the fun moments of being there. And, I think I learned how to coach there. You don't have depth. You don't have, the bench. You can't teach kids like, well, I'm just going to take you out. You have to find ways to motivate them. You have to make sure they're at practice every day. You have to pick them up, drop them off. Not all the kids are in the athletic period. So it was long days, but those kids, they needed athletics more than anybody. And so that was a really fun time to coach, and it was a really hard place to leave. But ultimately, I started having a family. I had 4 kids. Like within 3 years, we had twins and 2 other kids back to back to back. So I was starting to kind of burn out in that work environment, and took a step backwards. Some would say, and went to Mesquite Poteet to be just a position coach, and worked for Cody Groves for a year. And at the time, Poteet was very, very good. We had like 15 FBS players on the squad, and so it was really cool to be in that program. There was 250 kids playing, as opposed to at Spruce, there's only like 60 kids playing. So I got to see how the big program could be organized. And I actually only got to spend 9 months there. I planned on being there for a lot longer, but I got my first head coaching job at Woodrow Wilson there a year after, and became a head coach at 30 years old. So this is a long story. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, that's where we want to go. Every stop you've made.
Okay, all right. So one of the things I tell coaches all the time is do your job in the classroom really, really well. That's what makes 90% of your money. That's what we're in this for, is to impact kids of all types, not just athletes. So when I was in Dallas, I was a biology teacher, and I was named Teacher of the Year. So it was maybe like 27, and I applied for the head coaching job at Bryan Adams. I didn't get it, but I got an interview because the principal knew that I was Teacher of the Year, and he wanted to get to know me. Well, in that interview, one of the assistant principals, his name was Michael Moran, he remembered my interview. So when he became the principal at Woodrow Wilson, he gave me a chance to interview for that job, and I got the job as the head coach at Woodrow Wilson, one of the best schools in Dallas. And so it was just a good lesson to say, like, wow, like I got my name out there through teaching, and even though I was a hardworking coach, which many of us are, the people making the decisions are the administrators, and that's kind of how I got my first chance at a head coaching job. So I spent 3 seasons at Woodrow Wilson. Really cool school, the very diverse kids from all different socioeconomic backgrounds. And the first year was tough. We were 3-7, and then I feel like we made some changes in the culture of the program and won 8 and 9 games the next 2 years. And it was a good place, but wasn't a place I could really live in the community and raise my family. I was driving into the school, and Plano East came open, and I was like, oh, I could, live up there and get my kids up to school in Plano. And then, try to revive a 6A program. And I really liked the athletic director, Jeff Smith, who's here now, and his mottos and mine kind of matched up. So I got real fortunate to get the job here at Plano East. And first year was like the same year at Woodrow, went 3-7. So hopefully we can turn it around just like I was able to at Woodrow Wilson.
Nice.
And that brings me to this year. So
there you go. Go. If you could, you mentioned a few coaches that you worked with and for. Pull out a couple of those and give me some specifics of the things you learned from each of them. Yeah.
Okay. So my first head coach was Carl Richardson Jr. We call him Rich. And he would he knew how to speak to the kids, and I pulled that from him. He knew how to handle coaches, and I pulled that from him specifically. Like, if a coach is pushing back or he's not on board, he's able to pull him in his office and call him out. He kind of skips over all the fluff, and he's a truthful man. He gets to the point right away, and that's what that's needed on a coaching staff. And then also when you have tough kids that come from tough backgrounds that may not trust, men in particular, because most of them that we coached at Spruce had issues with they're raised by single parents, single mothers mostly. And, he was able to be stern with them and also love them at the same time. So I've definitely learned that from him. And then, like, from an X's and O's standpoint, I had to try to figure out how to coach. My first year as OC was not very good. So we looked up offenses, and I went to see Kendall Miller at Lakeview Centennial. He didn't know me from anywhere. Now he's at Frisco Emerson, but he spent like 6 hours with me going through his offense, going through clips. I'm writing down notes, and the next year our offense got 15 times better because I just tried to mimic what he was doing. Then we even went over to talk to North Mesquite, and Coach Rob was over there with Tyler Harrison was the offensive coordinator. And they're like, these coaches from Spruce, they're harmless. They'll come in, and we soaked up a bunch of information from them. Then I went over to Lancaster. I'm coach from Spruce. I'm offensive coordinator. Chris Gilbert, will you help me out? Chris Gilbert's talking to me about their tempo offense and giving me his playbook and clips on huddle. And I just started learning that through those guys because I never had like that offensive mentor at where I was coaching at. So I had to go out and find that and, help me really learn a lot about the game. And then Coach Groves really showed me the best way to like have a program that kids can't live without. That's kind of our slogan at Plano East as well. Okay. Like you have to set up a program where the kids are better because of your program. You don't need them in the football team, but they need football more than you need them. So how are you mentoring them? Specifically, he did like a mentor breakfast. So he brought adults in that poured into the kids. Then he made the kids pour into younger kids. So our football players would go to elementary schools. And it wasn't like a once a year thing that we take pictures of or whatever and post on Twitter. It was consistently every single week. You're actually creating change in the community. And, I remember one year our best receiver got in trouble in school. It was the playoffs, and he sat him for a quarter or 2 quarters and might have cost us the game. But, he did the right thing, and the kids saw that, and they was able to build a real program that grew kids instead of just like, cutthroat, try to win at all costs. And I appreciated learning that from him for sure.
Nice. And you talked about a bunch of coaches there and sharing. If you could kind of explain to people the brotherhood that is Texas high school football coaches and how you could be against them when you're on the field, but y'all work together. Yeah,
I think it's incredible. I think the job is so unique, right? You grind, you're away from your families. It's high pressure. You put our life definition is in the school in the newspaper every Friday, and everyone checks it out. And your wins and losses are based on your success, I suppose. And so when we're in the off season, we're trying to learn stuff. People are just so open to working together because ultimately the best players and the best adjustments in the game are going to win. But we're definitely trying to help each other get better, and I think that's super unique in a competitive atmosphere. Like this year, we called Trey Brooks at Rockwall, and I said, "Hey, coach, we probably might not ever play, unless it was the playoffs. Can we come up there?" Heck yeah! And we came up there and we sat down with their OC and their DC, and we talked football with them. And then we kind of adapted their practice plan this spring in practice, and you shoot them a text saying, "I appreciate it. It's made our practice much smoother." And I think that mentorship grows younger coaches and helps the next generation. And I think coaches in Texas are open to just helping that happen. And so that's just been one of the most things I've enjoyed. Never has someone said no, or we don't want to, go into too much detail about what we do. That doesn't happen in high school football in Texas. Nice.
And you mentioned Texas. When you talk to your friends and family from back in Illinois, they sure have an opinion of Texas high school football. How do you explain to them what the differences are?
The difference is it's supported by administration and it's supported by the community differently than in Illinois or any other state. Now, everybody loves high school football. The stands are packed in every state, but we have community-based athletics. You can't coach in Texas unless you're an employee of the school district. In high school, I'd have coaches that would come after they'd sell insurance and they just come coach you, but they're not investing in your life throughout the day as your teacher or checking your grades. and like a lot of states are. And then the kids can develop all year round. In Texas, you can have your 8th period class is football. You can watch film. You can lift weights all year round. You can develop as an athlete, where in other states that's not the case. So school districts are invested in extracurricular activities a little bit more than in other states, and ultimately that leads to just incredible Friday nights and better players. And my parents come to a game and they're like, man, the halftime was 30 minutes long, but half the community was there because you had both bands and both drill teams and both cheerleaders. And so I think that's kind of how I explain it the best. And I've always tried to get my brother or my friends to come down here and coach and, tell them they get a whole period for athletics and they get one less period to coach or to teach a class. Those things are super unique. We need to protect those because that makes our football programs better for our kids, or all of our extracurricular activities better for our kids.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been coaching long enough now that you've seen some of these kids grow into adulthood. Talk about some of those relationships that have developed with you. Yeah,
one of the kids I coached at Woodrow, his name was Francisco Nava. He went into the Marines. He went through their boot camp or passed, and shot me a long text with a picture of himself in his uniform. It's like, it was so easy to get through this because of all you guys taught me in off-season workouts and how to push through even when you're not, feeling right. And that's a special one right there. And I have another kid, he's in the business world now. And he just says, all the stuff you guys told me about, like, not giving in to your feelings and doing what's right by what you believe. And every single quote you guys said didn't really matter to me in high school, but now it makes a lot of sense. His name's Landon, and he's been working in Kansas City and in the business world. And so some of those things are really, really special to see. And, one of the coolest things is this year I just hired Dre Cortez, who actually played for me at Spruce, got an interception to send us to the playoffs, I guess, 2012 or 13. And I got to hire him as my corners coach. So that comes full circle, and it's really cool to see that, kind of like that loyalty from him, and then also like getting him an opportunity to coach and move up and impact other kids. So
I love that. And now that you're in the big chair again and hiring young coaches, what have you seen are the differences in the young coaches, and then how do you advise them?
I think for any head coach, the most successful head coaches, they have a good balance in their coach's office. They don't just hire the same person. I mean, like the same ethnicity or the same age, the same background. I think that creates a bad staff. You need to have, Coach Groves always told us, you need to have a balance. You have one coach really good at X's and O's. You need one good coach that's good with relationships and one coach that's real hardworking, and you got to have a good balance of that. So as I get older now into my, getting close to 40 here, I'm not going to be able to be the cool, relatable coach as much as I try. So I'm going to need to hire those young coaches, and they may have a different way of reaching the kids, but man, it's super powerful. My DB coach I was just telling you about, he's 3 years out of college. My corners are just gravitating to him. They stay after. They want to talk to him. They asking about things that he went through, and he's played the game, just recently got done playing and kind of going through the same things socially that they've gone through. So that's super important. And then to any young coach, you have to understand, like, you have to work hard, stay longer, ask questions. And, the biggest thing you have to teach them is how to be professional and show up early and dress appropriately for school, and you're not in college anymore. So those are some of the things that you have to kind of show them. But most time, those young coaches that really want it, that want to move up, they're going to stay after and ask questions about the playbook and go scout or fold laundry, do all the little things that really impress you as a head coach.
And do you find with some of the new ones that they're in a big hurry to get into the big chair and you need to rein them in a bit?
I think the hardest thing I've had with some of the young coaches recently is the wanting to like move around and switch jobs quickly. Where when I started moving into leadership roles, I spent 3 years at Woodrow and now I'm at Plano East. But originally I stayed 7 years at Spruce High School, which is a tough place to stay and coach. But that staying power is powerful. You create a great name for yourself, and you create a little bit of loyalty for the guys you're working with. And some of these guys, because jobs are so easily available right now, they're wanting to like bounce around. That's hard to become a coordinator when you do that, because you're not, building trust with the guy that you think may end up giving you that job one day. So yeah, right. I think it's a little different. Like when I started, right, I had to volunteer for a year and a half, then became a position coach, then worked your way up. Some guys, when they start coaching middle school. Now guys are getting out of high school or getting out of college and they're coaching a varsity position right away, just because the demand for teachers is lower. So. Got it.
And how about what do you see as some of the dangers or threats facing our game right now?
I think the hey, you do you movement, I guess, with the younger generation is hard. Like, hey, you want to go to a different school, or you want to play this position, or the coach is doing you wrong, so you do you. It's okay. It's cool that your teammates are almost like not holding the kids accountable to being a good teammate. They understand that you need to do whatever it is that you feel is right in your heart. When we tell our kids, like, yeah, sometimes your feelings are real, but that doesn't make them right. You have to make decisions based on your purpose. You have to make decisions based on what your parents have taught you are right and wrong, even though your feelings may be pulling you elsewhere. And so it's hard to get kids to get your butt out of bed and go work hard and do something consistently every day, even though you don't feel like it, or treat other people right, even though you don't feel like it. And so some of I think kids have always like bounced around and went to different high schools. A lot of that is parent driven, but that's a little dangerous, because it is important to grow up and play with the kids that you went to school with, no matter how many games you win or lose. It's a community and that's who you play for. So that makes it a little hard. And us as coaches have to be careful, because we want kids to come to our school so we could give more wins and losses, but we need to make sure we just build a program kids want to be a part of, not actively talking about each other's programs or trying to get other kids from other communities to come to our schools. That's a little dangerous right now in Texas high school football, and worries me a little bit that the UIL is so special that we have rules that coaches have to work on campus. They have to be district employees, and it's not like a private school. And so sometimes parents get sold kind of a false dream, and they kind of make up their own narrative, and we lose kids that way, and that's never fun.
Right. And you've mentioned community a few times. You've been at enough schools to see the difference between a school that has a strong community support and one that doesn't. What do you see are the big differences?
Well, I think having a community that the people, they're not looking, or they feel like they're in a good place. Like in Plano here, it's mostly middle class families. This is where they go to school. That's powerful. They want to see the school do really, really well. They don't have their eyes looking, and they're not comparing and trying to figure out what's the best for their kids. So I think when your community just bought into your school and not trying to find the next best thing or hurry on and worry about what's next, that hurts a high school program. And so I think that's a hard question, but I have definitely enjoyed families and parents that they live in a house. This is their neighborhood. This is what they're going to invest in, win or lose. They're going to get behind the coach, and that makes it powerful, as a place that's maybe more transient, where they're trying to look for the next best thing, and people never live in the present when they're doing that. It makes it hard to find happiness, really.
Got it. And you talk about the programs you have there, where you have people coming in speaking to the kids. You have the kids talking to the elementary. How do you build something like that? If another coach is listening, thinking, man, that would be good, how do you get that started?
Yeah. We have like 4 pillars in our program. One is academic success. Like we tell our kids, if you don't have 85 or higher in every single class, every Tuesday morning, you're showing up to sit in tutorials to make sure that your grades are high, and we stay consistent with that. And then we help them with their transcripts every year. We look at them and we go over their transcripts to make sure, hey, this 70 from freshman year is going to really hurt you. Then and I delegate that, right? Like someone's over academics on my football staff. And then when they try to go become a head coach, they can say, this is a program I set up when I was at Plano East under Coach Benedetto, and he made me the head coach of this program. And then, our second one is we want to have kids that doing community service projects. We utilize the community for that. So I could Google and try to find community service projects in Plano, or I can ask a parent on my booster club, hey, can you find 4 projects for our football program to do each year? And they're the ones that live in Plano, so they're the ones that can help us find great programs. And now we go do 4 community service projects, and all the players got to be a part of it. And then our third one is leadership. So we call the local police department, we call the fire department, we call businesses in the area, and we try to, or former players from Plano East, and we try to get them to come on Friday mornings to mentor one of our kids. So yeah, because teenager is going to hear it from mom and dad, they're going to hear it from coach, but it's mostly going to go in one ear out the other. But all of a sudden you hear it from a former Plano East player, or someone that's in the NFL, or someone that's in finance, or someone that's a police officer. They're going to maybe listen to them a little bit more. So that's powerful, and that happens in the fall. And then there's a coach over that I delegate that to. Then the last program is our kids are going to do community service projects, or they're getting poured into from the mentor breakfast. Then they're pouring out into youth. So they're going to elementary schools and reading to kids and playing in PE classes with them. And I think our kids get more out of that than the elementary kids do. So now all of a sudden you've got this program, man, they're all over the place. They've got adults from the community showing up to the football program to mentor the kids. They're going out and mentoring younger kids, the football players are, and then they're going out and doing community service projects. So you're super visible, and it helps when you want community support. When things are not going well, or if things are going well, they're going to back you because everybody knows the Plano East football player somehow. Yeah.
That's awesome. So cool. Coach Tony Beneddetto, guys, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me and sharing some of your story.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Hey, do you dream about a career in sports media, hanging out with legends of sports? I'm Chris Daly, and I went from being an absolute nobody to speaking at the top sports conventions, to hosting some of the top sports podcasts, and publishing 5 books and more. And I want to share with you my secrets, step by step, how to make it happen for you. Super Bowl champs, NBA stars, Hall of Famers in every sport, Olympians, you name it. They are in my cell phone, and they take my phone calls. The best part, the 5 secrets to sports media success is absolutely free, but it's not for everyone. I'm not going to waste my time giving it away to wannabes and quitters. I do not have time for that. Only the serious will get this. I will teach you how to earn the respect of the sports media big shots. I will teach you how to score connections you never felt possible, but will change everything in your sports media career. And I'll teach it just like I did it, building it from scratch. How to build it from absolutely 0 people paying attention to you to millions and more. Stuff that got me on major media platforms. So, do you want in? I'm not going to give you an URL that you're going to fill out and forget about. No, I'm not going to make it that easy. It is simple. It's not easy. You simply find me on social media, anywhere, any platform. I am everywhere. Chris Daly. It's a funny name, so I'm easy to find. And you send me a message that says something along the lines of, give me the 5 secrets. Or sports media success, something that jogs my mind to go, oh, this person is serious. They took the time. Prove that you're serious, and I will send it to you. Sports media is frankly all about amazing stories, right? So take that step to start writing your own.